You can configure everything to your own taste in the individual mode, but yeah. What the have I in the trunk? Oh. Yeah. There's a not fixed kid seat back here. Ugh. And now I have to stop because the stupid seat is fine. Today I'm driving the Audi e-tron or e-tron, or yeah, however it's pronounced. Doesn't change the fact that this name still means turd in French. And it's a name that Audi have been using for over 10 years. So, I mean, they must be fine with it, with putting a car on the market that's basically called the Audi turd. And I mean, at least it lowers the expectations. The e-tron is Audi's first electric SUV. It has a 90 kilowatt hour battery, of which only like 86 kilowatts are actually used, but it gives the car a range of slightly above 400 kilometers in the WLTP test, which of course is under ideal conditions. In practice, the way I'm driving now, today is a rather cold day. It's about 3 or 4 degrees centigrade. The car, fully charged, gives about 350 kilometers of range. So not exactly the 400 that were promised, but still very usable for a daily car. The car can be charged. It has a 11 kilowatt charger on board, which means you can charge it overnight in about 8 hours. And it can fast charge with 150 kilowatts. In about 30 minutes you get 80% of the full capacity. The car, this model is the 55, which is the higher spec model. It has 2 motors, one at the front, one at the rear. Combined power is 408 horsepower if you are in dynamic mode, and in boost mode for only 8 seconds. If you're not in dynamic mode, like I'm now, I'm in comfort mode, then the maximum power output is 361 horsepower, and that for 60 seconds. Continuous power delivery of this car, of this engine, is 130 horsepower, which may not sound like much, but then again, how often do you continuously demand maximum power from your car? So for all intents and purposes, this is a 360 horsepower car. And with 360 horsepower, it should be quite a rocket, right? Well, like most electric cars, the moment you push the throttle, the acceleration is instantaneous. However, this is a very, 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 very heavy car. In fact, the model I'm driving now is 2,624 kilograms empty. Add in a fat guy like me and you are at over 2.7 tons for this car. So even with all this power, the car obviously doesn't feel as fast, or isn't actually as fast as you would expect it. On the other hand, it does 0 to 100 in 5.7 seconds if you're in boost mode, which is good for such a heavy car. It's interesting that this car is so heavy when it actually isn't that large. The car is only 4.9 meters long, which means it's about 15 centimeters shorter than a Tesla Model X. Yet it manages to weigh about the same, if not even slightly more. And the Tesla Model X can seat up to 7 people, which this car can't. This is a pure 5-seater. Something I like about this car is that it remembers the last mode you were driving in. So if you were driving in dynamic, you turn the car off. When you turn it back on, it's back in dynamic. Very good. Yeah. on a mountain road like here, you realize how heavy the car actually is, because it does really feel it. And here going upwards, even when you put your foot down, even with boost mode, yeah, it's not a car that will blow you away. I mean, it handles well, but acceleration is hampered by the weight, and the same goes for cornering. I mean, if you try to take a corner with a bit of verve, the car understeers. It's fighting. It's incredibly heavy, so it's to be expected. That said, the car still handles well. It also has, I think, 265 millimeter wheels in this case, and it's all right. What I don't understand is, why does this steering wheel have pedals? What do they do? Because this car is electric. It has one gear. So I don't know what they are supposed to be doing. I know the pedals are an actual option you can have on this car. So the sports steering wheel with the pedals is an option, but why? What do they do? Yeah, driving downwards, the weight becomes even more noticeable. The brakes really have to work hard to stop the car. The tires have to work hard to keep the car in lane. The car, by the way, has massive brakes, 375 millimeters in the front, I believe, and 350 millimeters in the back. These are brake disc sizes that usually were reserved to like the most extreme of sports cars, and in this case, it's a family SUV. I'm personally not a fan of this escalation in weight, because first, it's not very efficient to carry around a lot of weight, and second of all, in case of an accident, if you were to have an accident with this car and like a small car like a Fiat Panda or something like that, the poor people in the Panda most likely would be dead, because this car weighs about 3 times as much as a Panda. So yeah, energy dissipation and whatever. The Audi e-tron 55 has a base price of 91,000 Swiss francs. And the car I'm driving now has quite a few options, bringing it to 128,000 Swiss francs. So this car has like 36,000 Swiss francs in options. It has all the driver aid system you want. It has the smart climate control. It has a bit of leather on the dash. It has sport seats. It has glass roof that you can open. It also has electric side mirrors. It means that the side view mirrors in this case have been replaced by cameras with screens, which is a very novel concept. And in my opinion, it's a bit of a gadget, because this costs 2,000 Swiss francs as an option, and yet I'd rather not have it, because usually when I look into the side mirrors, they are at one line of sight with everything. In this case, I have to look down there in that recess, and maybe it takes getting used to, but I think it's a bit of a gag. It's inconvenient, and also you don't get such a good depth perception from screens as you get from actual mirrors. And also the screens are quite small, mirrors are usually larger, so yes, you may have a better coefficient of drag without the mirrors, but I'd rather have mirrors, and I save the 2 grand for this gimmick. But also, despite 36,000 Swiss francs in options that this car has, same as with the Audi Q8, it has a blank button in the middle of the dash. And it's not just any button, it's the largest button in all of the car. Because you see, most of the interior of this car is controlled by touchscreens. So there are very, very few actual tactile buttons. I mean, if I look and if I count everything, maybe with the window switches, you are maybe at 20 buttons. And the largest one is the one where there's nothing. So I don't know. I mean, how much money do you have to spend on stuff? This being an Audi, of course, is fitted with Audi's adaptive cruise control that reads the traffic signs. Meaning, if it sees, like this, traffic sign says 50, I was driving 80, the car slows down to 50. Which in theory is great. In practice, it's very annoying. So this is one of the features that in general I tend to disable. Because just because the sign says 50 doesn't mean I'm gonna drive exactly 50. I may be driving 52 or something like that. And also when I'm driving 50 and then the 80 sign comes out, the car accelerates. And this is not something I want in any situation. Because, for example, if it's night, if it's raining, if it's bad weather, I don't want the car to just accelerate to whatever it thinks it should drive. I want to drive my own speed. But this is one of the problems I have in general with these driver aid system. I really like the self-driving and that stuff. What I don't like is when I have to share the driving with the car. For example, I like Tesla's implementation where you just, let go of the steering wheel, car does the rest. I don't like it when the car drives itself, but you have to keep your hands on the steering wheel, because then it always feels like, oh, the car wants to do this, but I want to do this. You're constantly fighting the car. And to me, a proper driving assist, a proper self-driving car should just drive itself. It either drives itself or I'm gonna drive. But as with cooking and many other tasks, these are responsibilities you just cannot share. I mean, if you do share it, the results will be varied. Anyway, one thing that I have to say about the Audi e-tron is that it's actually very comfortable. Usually electric cars, mainly led by Tesla, are, quite sporty performance cars. And this car, it's no slouch either, but it feels very comfortable. The ride comfort is very high, despite this car being fitted with massive 21-inch wheels. So that's something I have to say, well done to Audi, because even with other cars in its segment, for example the Jaguar I-Pace, it's not a given that an electric SUV is an actual comfortable car. Also, this car is very silent. Obviously not just because it's an EV, but also because it has laminated glass all around. And in general, I feel that Audi, they have really worked on it. They've made sure the car is very quiet, because even if I switched to the onboard audio of my camera, I think you could still hear me pretty well. I wouldn't even necessarily need a microphone in this car. So I think this car, very silent, very well made. So all in all, what does the Audi e-tron 55 feel like to drive? Well, to be honest, it feels like an Audi. And this is not a bad thing, because all in all, I could be in a new A8, in a Q5. They all look similar. They have this interior with the 3 screens. By the way, one screen, a touch screen to control the climate control. I'm not a fan of it. It does click and give haptic feedback, but it's still not something you can use without really looking at. So I'd rather have proper controls rather than touchscreens. Other than that, you get the typical Audi quality. So you get nicer plastics, well-made seats. These are optional, by the way. It's a good thing that this car doesn't feel any different than any other Audi. Looks-wise, the car looks also like pretty much any other Audi. Could easily be mistaken for a Q5, for example, which I also think can be a good thing, can be a negative thing. If you want a car that doesn't show itself too much, good. Also, the styling is quite conservative. It's typically Audi. There are people who like it, people who don't like it, but at least it's not a polarizing design. It's pleasant, it's all right. And pleasant and all right, I think, is pretty much what sums up the whole car. Because it's a pleasant car, it's all right, it's a high-end Audi, it's a nice car. But then again, it's not really best in class at anything. Its range is not that great. Tesla can do it better. However they do it better. Size-wise, it's also not that spacious, because this car, despite being the size of a Q5, the trunk space is about the same as a Q3. So even in that aspect, yes, not really class leading. Performance, it's okay, but it's not class leading. So this is actually a perfectly pleasant car that, in my opinion, is a bit too expensive. Because for the money you pay for this Audi e-tron, you could get a Tesla Model X, which you might like, you might not like. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the looks, but is a faster car, it's larger, and it's got more range. So if these things matter to you, then the Audi is not really the car for you. On the other hand, I think the e-tron will be an interesting upgrade for existing Audi users. People who want to stay with the brand, who like the brand, who like maybe the servicing, their dealers, they will get quite a competent car. I mean, let's not forget, this is Audi's first really battery electric SUV, and it's really good. And on the plus side, you get a lot of toys if you pay for them, and it's very comfortable. It's probably one of the most comfortable electric cars I've ever driven. And it still manages to handle all right. What I like about this car is when you hit the throttle, it's a bit damped. The acceleration is not just neck snapping. It's not like in a Jaguar I-Pace where it just throws you back. This is like smoother. It might feel slower, but I like it a lot better because it's more comfortable. With the others, you hit the pedal and then every time you touch the pedal, it throws you back. And this one, you hit the pedal and it accelerates very smoothly. This is very good. So far, I think this is the best implementation I've seen in an electric car. If you want the one USP that this car really has, in my opinion, this is the most comfortable electric car made to date. So if comfort, ride quality, quietness is something you're after, then definitely have a look at the Audi e-tron, because in my opinion, it's the best right now. People always get really hung up on range when talking electric cars. And in my opinion, this car, they claim 400 kilometers. In real life, it's most likely going to be 300. If you drive it really hard or whatever, maybe 200. But still, I mean, if you have a car, you can in any case do 200 kilometers in a day. I think that covers like 95% of all the daily commutes, of all the drives you're going to do in a day. So for me, any car that has a range, 300 kilometers and more, it's good. There's nothing to worry about. On the other hand, people say, well, what if you want to do a road trip, some longer travel? Well, yes, of course, that's true. But then again, I think people who spend 128,000 francs for a e-tron like this, when they have to go further away, they most likely will take an airplane or a train or whatever, and they will not drive that distance. So it becomes kind of academic. So as long as you can charge your car at home overnight, a car like this is an easy daily driver. Where it's a bit not so easy is when you cannot charge at home. Because at least in Switzerland, charging infrastructure is not really that great. I mean, if you have a Tesla, there's the superchargers, but they are only available to Tesla owners. And even now, they're getting awfully crowded because there's a lot of Teslas on the road. So even the superchargers, they are not super reliable if you have to go somewhere and charge in a hurry. But for cars like this Audi, who have to rely on public infrastructure for charging, at the time it's really difficult because there are different operators that are not compatible one with each other, and some you have to have a card to use them, and some you have to do it with an app. It's not very comfortable, and it often doesn't really work. I mean, I haven't dabbled too much into EVs, but every time and every single time I've tried to charge an EV at the public charging station, there was some form of trouble. It wouldn't work, it wouldn't start charging, the counter wouldn't go, the machines, and then usually you call the service provider and say, hey, look, I'm here and here, it doesn't charge, it doesn't do anything. Oh, have you tried plugging it? Oh, no. Yes, I have tried plugging it out and in again, it doesn't charge. Then, oh yeah, I guess we have to send a technician, so what am I gonna do? Yeah, go somewhere else. Yeah, that's the problem. I think the cars are there, the cars are good enough to be used daily, but the infrastructure, it just needs work. So the Audi e-tron 55 Quattro. All in all, a very pleasant car, definitely not a turd, but also, except maybe for the ride comfort, not a car that excels in anything, but it does many things well. So if you're looking for an EV, or if you're looking for a new SUV, or you're generally just looking for a new Audi, check the e-tron out. It's pleasant. What do you think about the Audi e-tron? Is it a turd? Is it a good car? Would you buy one? Would you rather buy something else? What is your general opinion on electric cars? Please comment down below. I'm very interested in reading your opinions. And if this video was interesting to you, if you liked this video, please leave a like. Subscribe to my channel for more videos in the future. And thank you for watching. And now usually I would play a clip where you hear the exhaust sound. But in this case there is no exhaust sound. So it doesn't even do sound generation, I think. So maybe I can do sound generation.